Okay, so how's it going out there, guys? It's week 1. We've waited so long. It feels like we waited all year for it. No, we haven't, but feels like that. And we're here. And yeah, things are a little different today. In the middle of our episode this week, we had some technical difficulties. I'm just trying to piece this together for you guys before kickoff. We'll go game by game. I'm also going to try to get on TikTok today. Go to Ultimate Fantasy Locker Room on TikTok. I'll be going live and answering questions, so you can find me there. So like I said, man, week 1, and I don't know about you guys. I mean, this is like the best time of the year for me. It's a holiday every Sunday. We're planning out the food in my house, what we're going to drink, what we're going to eat. And I know everybody's pretty pumped after watching a great opening game on Thursday night. A few of the storylines today that I'm following. The Ravens backfield. I mean, is it Tyson? Is it Murray? I'm going with the young guy. I like Murray long term in that backfield for the year. But today I'm looking at the young guy, and I'm going to roll with him. I just don't think that Murray really makes a difference this week. And, you know, maybe he can sneak in and vulture a touchdown. So in a non-PPR leagues, he maybe has some standalone value. If you're in a pinch and you need to stick somebody in your flex, it's not the worst guy to turn to, but obviously, if you have Tyson, I'm saying you go with him this week. Another big question is all you Saquon Barkley drafters out there. I'm concerned about Barkley too. I think he's going to look good. I just don't know what kind of workload he's going to get, how much Booker's going to factor in. I'm assuming Booker's going to lead in carries and touches, and Barkley will be in the mix. That's what the thought is. The prevailing thought is that he's going to be in the mix with 12 to 15 touches. Now, who's to say if he looks good, if the game's going back and forth, if he doesn't get more touches. But, you know, it just depends on where you sit and who's your opponent. Do you feel like you can win? Can you take the risk and put him in your lineup? Or if not, you know, you may need to pivot off of him. You know, he's the kind of guy that if he's up to speed and he's healthy, he can make that worth your while. Another big thing, who's going to be the next guy in Kansas City? Hardman is going to be Pringle. I'd say probably on the safe side, I'd lean towards CEA. So we had a segment this week. We were talking about hot drop. Mark fading Ezekiel Elliott, and unfortunately the show didn't come out before Thursday to help you guys out with that. But I just wanted to give Marcus props on that. He called the Zeke thing and actually benched him on his team this week because of the matchup. He was right. I'm really worried about Austin Eckler this week. You know, flying across country, 1 o'clock game on the East Coast is always tough on a West Coast team. And then you factor in that he's been banged up this week with the hamstring. I'm not sure at this moment if he's still questionable. But if he's questionable or if he's playing tomorrow, I'm still a little wary of him going up against that defense. Even Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen, I'm worried about those guys too. That was the number 3 defense in fantasy last year against quarterback. That's going to allow for a West Coast team to come play at 1 o'clock on the road and go up against a defense like that. So, you know, if you got him, you drafted him early, obviously you're probably going to start him. But if you have a solid pivot for one of these guys, you know, I'd strongly consider it. We're going to start here with the Battle of the Birds. The Battle of the Birds. Talking about the Philadelphia Eagles at the Atlanta Falcons. And I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. There's a chance that it's a little messy. These teams who, you know, the defenses are a little bit in disarray. But, man, I love Jalen Hurts in this game. I still like Miles Sanders, Devonta Smith. And on the Atlanta side, you know, the usual suspects, Ridley and Ryan. I think he'll be pretty solid going against this secondary. But, man, I'm excited to see Kyle Pitts. I really think he's in for a nice amount of looks today. I'll also say Russell Gage. I think he's in the perfect spot where I think a lot of the attention is going to go to the first-round pick and Calvin Ridley, who was just tearing people up last year. I think Gage has a chance to really make an imprint. I'm interested to see what Mike Davis does. Last year, you know, he showed well, but I think a lot of his results were based on volume and not so much on talent. No offense to him, but I just want to see what it looks like. All right, so the next game we're talking about is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. The Steelers are being a little undersold this year. I think their defense is going to be as good as advertised. I think Ben might be a little bit better. And if he is with Najee Harris, I think it'll really open up the passing game for this team. They have three really solid receivers. A guy in Claypool who you think has a skill set to really be a real demon on the field. And we know what the Bills bring to the table. I really look for Schuster to get a lot of work this week. I look for Harris to get a lot of work this week. And I think Claypool has a chance to get into the end zone a few times. So if I got any of those guys on the Steelers, I'm full go. I'm starting them. I'm not fading any of those guys. And on the other side with Buffalo, I expect them to struggle a little bit. But I do think you could feel pretty safe rolling with Diggs and Allen, of course. I'm not starting any of these backs in this backfield until I see how it's going to shake out. Maybe just wait a week, see how it plays out, see who's getting the targets, and maybe attack one of those guys, Moss or Singletary, that way, and see what you could do with them going forward. All right, so next we'll talk about the Browns and the Chiefs, and this is a game, man. This is a game that I'm super high on Odell. If he's healthy, if we coming into the contest, we know that he's a full go, because I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think Vegas thinks it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's the highest projected point total for the slate. So, I'm super high on the Chiefs, and I'd be intrigued to play CEH as well. I'd be a little more reserved as far as Hardman or Pringle. I might want to wait a week on that. With the Browns, though, you got a lot of options here, too. I think this is a Kareem Hunt game. I think with the pace that this game is going to be played at, I think with the points that it's projected to be at, I think if you're going to start a running back this week from the Browns and daily, I think it's Kareem Hunt you want to start. If you have Nick Chubb on your roster, okay, you're starting him because you probably had to go up and get him early. But if you handcuffed him with Hunt, man, I'd be really intrigued to play Hunt over Chubb this week, just based on game script and point total alone. I think if this game gets to be a shootout, I think you're going to see a lot more of Hunt. He's the better receiving back. He's the more explosive back, I think. So, yeah, I'm big on Hunt this week. Also, for the Browns, like I said, Odell in a game like this, he's a game breaker. He's got the big playability. So I like him as an upside play. And obviously, if you got Landry on your team, I think he'll get a lot of work today too. I'm not too sure on who to play at the tight end position for the Browns in week one, just not knowing who's getting what. So I would probably stay away from that. As far as the quarterbacks go, Mahomes is no-brainer. And I think I think Mayfield is actually a solid, sneaky play this week, because I think he's going to have to do a lot if they're going to be able to compete. So, all across the board, the only guys that I'm really a little iffy about is probably Chubb, just because of the game script, and the tight ends for the Browns, just because I don't know who's going to do what, and those bottom two receiving options for the Chiefs. I'm not too clear on who's going to do what there, so I'd probably take a seat on those guys as well. Moving on, we'll go to the Dolphins at the Patriots, and this is a 2.5 point spread, so it's going to be a pretty close game. The total for this game is pretty low. That being said, I think this year, the Patriots, I think they're going to try to, I think Mac Jones looked great. He's still a rookie QB. I think Bill Belichick's going to try to take the air out of the ball, play defense, run the ball, dump it off to the tight ends. They don't have any really solid guys or guys that we could count at a wide receiver. Jacoby Myers has looked good. Nelson Aguilar had an under-the-radar season last year, and they brought him in, I think, to stretch the field. So there's going to be some value with those guys going forward. But I think in week one, you're really going to have to wait and see. And that's going to be the motto of the week for me. Wait and see on the guys we don't know about. Obviously, if you have to take a risk, you take it. But if you can hold off a few of these guys, you want to wait and see. But I'm not going to wait and see on Damian Harris, because I think they're going to want to run the ball. And I think with a team like Miami, unless they come out and they look like a different team than they were last year, especially with Tua on the field, I'm not expecting them to really burn the house down with points, if you get what I'm saying. So I think that for sure the Patriots are going to want to run the ball. and Miami's defense is good, but I think Harris is going to get a lot of work. On the Miami side, I'm a little up in the air about who to play at the wide receiver position, but I do like Myles Gaskin. I think Tua, based on last year, short attempts, short completions, Gaskin should get a lot of work, and he shined last year when he was playing super high in Gaskins. And I'm going to wait to see how this wide receiver core shakes out as far as targets and who's going to demand those red zone targets as well. I wouldn't mind playing Gesicki in this game. He's a pretty decent play this week. As far as the Patriots tight ends, I just don't know what to make of the double. I know they had Gronk there and Hernandez, and they've run this style of offense before. I just don't know who's doing what, and I'm just a little wary. Obviously, if you drafted one of these guys to be your starting tight end, you're going to play him this week. But if they're one of your backup tight ends, I would say wait this week before you start him, see what happens, and go from there. All right, so what we're going to get into next is the San Francisco 49ers at Detroit Lions. And it's an interesting game. I think San Fran's defense is going to be pretty good, so I'm a little hesitant to start anybody for the Lions besides T.J. Hockenson, maybe Terrell Williams, and that's about it. I'm not crazy about any of these guys this week. On the San Francisco side, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think maybe you start Kittle, maybe for sure. I'm still iffy on Mostert. Not that I think Detroit's defense is anything special. I just don't know what the roles are yet. I feel pretty good about Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, but then again, I don't. This game is just a total toss-up for me. I mean, it's one of those games that you kind of want to forget about week one. It makes you not excited. So we'll move on from that game. We'll move on to the Vikings at the Bengals. The Bengals. Obviously, on the Minnesota side, you're all geared up to start Jefferson. I think it's a full go on Adam Thielen as well. Dalvin Cook. I think Cousins could be a sneaky play here going against that Bengals defense. And on the other side of the ball, man, I'm nervous about Burrow, but I will probably be starting T. Higgins. I'll be running Joe Mixon out there. I think this is a tough matchup for them, but they're home. It's a week one game, so I think those guys may be able to get going. But I do think the Vikings defense is going to be pretty tough to deal with this year. But yeah, pretty much the usual suspects in this game. Nobody that really jumps off the paper for me to start that you guys wouldn't really know about. So we'll move on to the next game, and it's the Sam Darnold and Matt Rule revenge game. I'll tell you what, I'm super high on the receiving core for the Panthers this week. That Jets secondary is not good. The Jets secondary is not good. Okay, I don't know how much pressure the Jets are going to be able to get on Sam Darnold. I think obviously he'll be motivated. He'll be at home. He's got the receiver he's had the best chemistry with since he's been in the league, although it's only been 3 years. Robbie Anderson, he's back on the field with him. They got a lot of playmakers on that offense. Obviously, McCaffrey's a full go. And I think Darnold's a sneaky play in daily fantasy too, because I think he has a chance to really light it up against his former team. As far as the Jets go, I'm looking at Corey Davis. I think he's going to get a brunt of the receiving work. He's looked pretty solid in the preseason. Seems like him and Zach Wilson have some chemistry. I think Elijah Moore is a guy that could really turn into a star. I just don't know what he's going to do week one, so I'm a little hesitant to put him in my starting lineup. Not really knowing what I'm going to get or what they're going to be asking of him in the first week of the season. So, moving from there, we'll go for Arizona going to Tennessee. This is a game that I think there's I know it's going to sound weird. There's a lot of uncertainty for me with the Cardinals. I think obviously the running back situation is a little murky. I think people with Chase Edmonds on their squad are typically have him as their third running back or maybe the fourth. So I don't really think he's an option this week because I just don't know what that split's going to look like with him and James Conner. Let me start over. I don't know if I was out of frame a little bit. But, yeah, I just don't know what that's going to look like. Obviously, like Hopkins, Green might be a sneaky play here if he's in good shape. I think Murray's a good start. I don't love Murray as an NFL quarterback, but I think he's a good start here. I think he's going to still be able to get yards with his feet no matter what. And he it's not going to be crazy to see him throw a couple touchdowns or throw one and run for one. I know it probably sounds crazy. It's just I'm not crazy about him in particular as an NFL quarterback. I think he's going to struggle. And I think Cliff Kingsbury is on the hot seat with that offense. And on the other side, I think Tennessee at home, I think they've gotten better this year. They went out and got Bud Dupree. I think that defense is going to be tougher. I like both Julio Jones and A.J. Brown this week. I like Derrick Henry. I like Ryan Tannehill. Play them. I think they're going to win big this week at home against Kyler Murray and the boys there. So that's all I got on that one. We'll move on to Baltimore at Las Vegas. And I tell you what, this is another game that I really like Las Vegas in. I think Baltimore on the road. It's the first game the Raiders are going to have in their new stadium with fans. I think it's going to be a really, really, really hard, tough place to play week one. And I think the Ravens are going to struggle. I'm still starting Lamar Jackson. I still trust him to get me where I need to be. And as I said earlier, I would probably start Tyson if I had to start one of the two running backs. As far as wideouts go, I really don't know. I guess if you have Hollywood there as your flex, you're going to play him. But I'm not crazy about it. I'm definitely not crazy about playing him this week. And not that the Raiders are any powerhouse. I just don't like the matchup. I don't like the setting. I don't like the feeling. And we could call this a gut thing. As far as the Raiders go, I'm really excited about Waller again this year. And the thing with Jacobs and Drake, I think it's pretty simple. If Jacobs winds up going, I start him hesitantly, but if he's one of your top backs, I think you have to start him. But if he doesn't play and you have Drake, I think Drake is a great play here. He's going to get a lot of the work. And, in his past, he's been a guy that's kind of made his meal on volume. So that's what I like there. I'm not too crazy about any of the wideouts yet for the Raiders. If I had to play one, I'd probably play Edwards this week just because I think he may be the lead dog in the room. But I'll do that hesitantly. All right. So now we're going to move on to probably one of the most boring games of the week. That's the Bears at the Rams. And if I'm on the Bears side, I'm gonna feel good about starting Allen. I'll feel okay about starting Mooney. Maybe even the tight end Cole Kmet. I'm not feeling great about Montgomery, but obviously he's a guy you grab early, so you're probably gonna want to play him. And I can't hate you for it because he's probably one of your top guys. But I think going up against this defense is going to be a pretty tough day for Chicago. Unless Andy Dalton turns into Andy Dalton from 5 years ago and he can stretch the field a bit, it's going to be a long day for Chicago. Now, as far as the Rams go, I think we're feeling pretty good about Cooper Kupp, feeling pretty good about Robert Woods. I'm a little hesitant to start Tony Michel in this game, and I'm probably feeling pretty good about a Tyler Higbee start here. I will temper expectations this week just because the Bears do have a pretty solid defense. Not world beaters by any stretch of the imagination, but pretty solid defense, and I don't think the Rams will have their way with them. But we'll see. Maybe Stafford has a coming out party, but I'm still pretty bullish on Kupp and Woods. Stafford, if you have him or in the daily, I think he might be a little overpriced for what you could. The other guys you could get around his price range for a little bit more money. Yeah, but that's the game that I'm pretty excited about is Green Bay at New Orleans, which is going to be played in Jacksonville. I like both the quarterbacks in this game. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. All the usual suspects are there, but I do like Marquez Callaway to maybe catch one or two deep ones and get in the end zone in a game that I think New Orleans is going to have to score points to keep up with Aaron Rodgers and company. Devontae Adams is a no-brainer. Aaron Jones, no-brainer. I do like Tanyan to follow up last year's breakout season and continue to build on his chemistry with A-Rod. I think this is a game that is all systems go if you have a player on one of these two teams. I think you feel pretty safe that they're going to get a nice workload, and this will be an up-and-down game. Nice weather, neutral site, two quarterbacks. Whatever you may think of Jameis Winston, both of these guys like to throw the ball, and they're not afraid to. So I think this will bode well for anybody on your roster from these teams. All right, so let's go to another kind of clunky matchup with the Houston Texans at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's what I say. I'll say that it's a good, on paper, it's a good matchup for the Jags, but I do think they're going to struggle. I think they're going to struggle early. I'm not crazy about the passing game. I do like Chenault. I like Shark, but I just don't know if it's going to come together week one. The Texans, they're a team that's in turmoil right now, but what they do have is a lot of veteran players in a week one game against a rookie quarterback. I have a feeling that the Texans are going to win this game. I have a feeling that they're going to dominate this game a little bit. I don't know if that's going to result in a high scoring, but I do think they'll control the tempo and the pace of the game. I do like Brandon Cooks in this game. He's going to be a solid option this week. Nothing that's going to blow your mind at all, but I think he's a solid option. And if we're digging in the crates here, David Johnson and Philip Lindsay are okay plays at the flex position. And outside of that, James Robinson is another guy I think is going to get a lot of work, even if it's against the coach's wishes, who probably would have rather had Etienne in there. But I think James Robinson will get touches, and I think he'll have something to prove again, knowing that they went and drafted this young kid. And after the season he had, I'm sure he's going to want to put on a show. He'll have an extra chip on his shoulder, so I like to play with him there. Outside of that, I'm not really crazy about anybody else in this game. So let's move on to the Seahawks at the Colts. And here's what I say. I think the Colts are interesting because up until about a day ago, I thought JTT, Jonathan Taylor, was going to be just a star this year. And I still think he has the talent to do that. But, they gave Nahim Heinz a pretty considerable contract today. And, it just makes you wonder how much they plan to factor him in. It seems like obviously more than I thought, or maybe we all thought in the fantasy community. So Nahim Heinz, he's there, he's paid. We'll see how much that cuts into JT's workload. I do think he's obviously the more talented running back all around, the guy that could really be a bell cow for them. But we'll see what they want to do there. I have no idea. As far as the wideouts go, we know Hilton's banged up. Pittman looks like a good player. It's really going to be whether or not Wentz could get it going. If he could look like a semblance of what he used to look like a few years ago, then I really like Pittman. And that being said, I do like him this week just because I don't think that defense is that great for Seattle. And I think this will probably be a bit of a higher scoring game, even taking the over of what the projected score is, which I think is 48.5. I could be wrong. I got to check that. But I think it's 48.5. I think Seattle, I think you could feel pretty good starting Metcalf, Lockett, and Carson. I think that's about it. There's nothing about this game that I'll tell you to fade any of these guys. I think you're safe to start them. I really don't have anybody jumping off the paper for me here either. All right, so we'll move on to the last game we're going to talk about, and it's the Broncos at my New York Giants. And this is another game that is just it's tough to call, and here's the reason. The Denver's got a great defense. The Giants have an underrated defense. I think Teddy Bridgewater is very conservative. I think it's going to be hard to get big fantasy value out of anybody this game. The total on this game is pretty low, like 43, 42 points. I think Daniel Jones has a chance to score well. I think with the offensive line as young as it is, still struggling, and probably just needing some time to mesh. I think there will be a lot of scramble opportunities, breaking the pocket and maybe throwing downfield. So I think Jones could have a big game if he plays well, just because how the game's constructed with their defensive line and the Giants' offensive line. I think he could provide some opportunities to make some big plays and at the very least get some yardage on the ground. So I think there's upside there with Daniel Jones. I also think that I have no idea what Galladay is going to do. I have no idea what Kadarius Toney is going to do. Evan Ingram is out. Kyle Rudolph is playing. I have no idea what he's going to do, but I think he could be a sneaky play as a red zone target. Like I said earlier, I don't know how I feel about Barkley, but you probably drafted him early if you do have him, and you're probably going to have to start him here, and you're just going to have to hope that he does something that Saquon Barkley would normally do, and to break a big play and get in the end zone, because I'm just not sure the volume is going to be there for him today. And on the Broncos side, I think Melvin Gordon will get a lot of work. I've watched this Giants defense all last year, and I think they've gotten better. And I don't know how much success they're going to be able to have on the ground, or in the air. I think both of these teams are going to be tough. It's going to be tough in this game. I just think that Jones' mobility, at least in a fantasy sense, gives some upside on the ground for him. And then we can see what else he can put on top of that. But I think you get a solid floor with him with his ground game. All right, so that's it for the games, guys. Hopefully that wasn't too painful. I'm used to doing this with my guys. I'm just trying to throw this together for you guys to give you a little bit of something. If you have been following us, we definitely appreciate it. We love you, and I didn't want to leave you hanging. So besides that, the only other thing that we had done on the show was our picks for the week. We picked the games against the spread. If you weren't watching last season, we do that every week. We keep a track as a competition. There's trophies. So what we will do is we will go over our picks. They're already made. They were made on Thursday. We'll go over them next week and let you guys know where everybody stands, and we'll start from there. So that being said, man, I really appreciate you watching. If you watched this long, I apologize if I stuttered a little bit. Like I said, just trying to galaxy brain this thing right here for you guys. I do think that I'll probably be doing a bit more of these videos throughout the season from the house, just to give you guys my thoughts on stuff that's breaking throughout the week, and injuries and waiver ads and stuff like that. So you'll be seeing some more of these. And that's it. I mean, everybody, good luck. It's week 1. Football's back. Football's back. Woo! Football's back. Hopefully, you guys win your leagues. Everybody can't, but just don't finish in last place and get that punishment. Ultimate Fantasy Locker Room on TikTok tomorrow, 11 o'clock. I'll be live. You find us on YouTube. That's probably where you're watching this, but like and subscribe, please. Hit that notification bell. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We try to stay active on all of those things. If you have any questions, don't feel sheepish or bad about messaging one of us to ask it. All right. Peace.